Hey, so we're going to do a little room tour here. Coury did his a few weeks ago, and actually Coury is here in my house doing the camera. So this is going to be sort of a walk and talk, I guess. So say hi, Coury. You might sound a little.
I'm behind the camera.
Coury might sound a little far away, so he'll have to speak up. So a lot has changed since we did the room tour video. Gosh, what year was that? Like 2015 maybe?
2016.
2016. Yeah, I mean a lot has changed. I think my setup down here has probably changed more than yours did.
Oh yeah, a lot.
So I mean, some things are kind of the same. When I did the original room tour, this Samsung TV was my main gaming monitor, computer monitor, everything, and it's mounted in the exact same place. When I upgraded my TV, I didn't move this TV, I just added another TV next to it. So originally this was sort of facing forward, and this couch was over, so you could walk on both sides of the couch. And this long IKEA unit with the Nintendo consoles on the underside and the PlayStation consoles on the top was kind of in the middle of this wall, and I had some other IKEA stuff on the sides. But recently I decided I kind of wanted to separate my sort of playing game space and my workspace a little bit to help sort of put me in a different mindset, and also so I could kind of optimize maybe certain aspects of the work setup. And it does help, because now, like when I sit here on this couch, like it really puts me in a mindset of like, this is relaxation time.
Right. Even though they're really very close to each other, you have a home and an office.
Yeah, kind of. So this monitor here, next to me, like this, I've got a wireless keyboard with a trackpad on it, and so I can do any computing I need right here. This is very similar to my setup I've used for a very long time, and it's got a webcam here, and it's got a microphone here. So this is where I usually sit when I'm streaming. And if I've got a guest on the stream, I can always just tilt the monitor like this. It's just kind of attached to this IKEA unit right here.
I see that.
Yeah, it's got. Sometimes people ask me about this. It's just a monoprice like desk clamp.
Oh yeah.
That you can just mount a monitor to. I don't know. They probably don't make that exact one anymore because I've had it a long time. Sandy really likes the Final Fantasy XIV idle camera. She sometimes takes an interest in the things that pop up on there. So that monitor, the stuff on that monitor, that's like the right-hand side monitor.
Right.
It's duplicated on this screen, which I kind of use for my main side monitor for editing. And it's also duplicated on this screen. This is a relatively recent addition. So this way, if I want to stream playing on the PVM instead of sitting over there, yeah, there it comes.
You can also track.
I can watch the chat room, work with OBS,
and show what you're what you're capturing.
Yeah, I have for a long time been a proponent of I've been anti-desk for a long time. Mm-hmm. So this is actually a IKEA is an entertainment stand. I forget exactly what it cost, but it was not a lot. It was like $60 at most. I feel like it's really nice for what it costs. It might have been less than that even. But I learned to use a keyboard in my lap playing the PS2 version of Final Fantasy XI, and ever since then I've been like, what do I need to be hunched over a desk for? Like I'm all about this keyboard on your lap, all about the trackball resting on the arm. I really like this chair. I got this I guess kind of as a gift to myself for going full time with YouTube. And you know, so it lets me swivel around and do all this, and I like the lower arms on it because it lets me put my arms at a very comfortable position for using the trackball.
So this is where you do where you do all your work, basically.
This is where I do my editing now. Yeah, I mean, you know, so I've got Premiere here. I opened up the old Mega SG video. It didn't relink all of the media, but
That's all right.
yeah. So
you got another shotgun microphone up here for streaming.
I do. This is what I normally when Coury is streaming, I use that microphone, and there's a webcam on top of the Samsung TV as well. So I normally sit here for Coury streams, or whenever I'm chatting with people, just in general on Discord or whatever. I want to put a microphone over here, but for now I just kind of temporarily, I've got another microphone stand that I can just kind of put in the room wherever I want. And I kind of want to get one permanently over here, but I just haven't done it yet.
So what systems you got in here? I mean, it looks like you got a bunch of systems over here.
Oh, over here. So yeah, this unit here, I actually got it at the Habitat for Humanity thrift store, the Restore. And when I saw it, it was actually vertical.
Oh yeah.
And I realized like this is meant to go horizontal. And I just thought it was a really neat unit. It actually came with a lot more of these spare shelves. So I could get even more stuff in there if I really wanted to. I just thought it was kind of unique because it's a lot of small holes where I felt like it wouldn't take up a lot of space and I could fit a lot of stuff in it.
Right.
So over here, kind of what I've done is put a lot of, I guess you could say, the alternative consoles.
The FPGAs.
The FPGAs, etc. So I've got the high def NES over here. You know, I primarily use the RGB NES or the RGB Famicom, but this is also here as an option. It's also got the blinking light win in it, which has worked really well for me. So I actually like using this system a lot as well, even though I normally use the RGB ones. And so over here I've got the NT Mini, which this is actually kind of an uncomfortable place for it because, especially if I put a cartridge in, one thing I don't like about the NT Mini is the power button's in the back.
Yeah.
So it's like this is definitely a tight spot for it, but to be fair, the NT Mini is, you know, mostly for the jailbreak stuff anyway. I've got a Super NT here and a Mega SG right here. And a lot of the 8-bit DOE controllers. I've got the, you know, I've talked about this in the docks and stands episode. These magnetic, so you can sort of put this magnetic little dongle in the micro USB. And then I've got a cable there. I've got taped down in the back so that the cable sort of stays in
That's a good idea.
in relatively the right place. And so yeah, I just charge those. And there's a lot of like USB charging bricks and stuff hidden back there, kind of. Yeah, actually, it looks like this Super NT is actually unhooked right now for some reason because the cables I can feel the cables back here. All of the HDMI systems here are going into an automatic HDMI switcher that actually works pretty well. A lot of times, HDMI switchers seem to, like certain devices might be constantly sending a signal out, and that screws up the auto switching. But all the systems I have set up over here are good at that. I've got an extra space for something else, maybe Analog's next system. Who knows? But
it's always good to be prepared.
Yeah. Also here I've got these little drawers that in this one I store like controller adapters.
Oh yeah.
Like for using a different controller on a system. This one has controller extensions. This one has like sort of like utility cartridges like Powerbase Mini or the here's a pseudo Saturn Action Replay. Here's a Super Nintendo cartridge that has the 240p test suite on, Game Genies, Game Sharks, stuff like that I've got in this one. And it's pretty small drawers. And then this one is like flashcards, which I don't have nearly as an extensive collection as you do.
Yeah, but we were discussing. I think the only one you've actually bought was the NES or
the Famicom one. Yeah, all mine are most of mine are hand-me-downs from you, and a couple from some very generous viewers of the show. Over here, I've got just some extra controllers. I've sort of got, this Surface is too small to put all my controller chargers on, so these are kind of like, a generation old.
Yeah.
So I've got some Wii remotes ready here.
Is the Wii remote your preferred?
This one is associated with the Wii, and this one is associated with the Wii U.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then the Xbox 360 controller is just on a stand. I've got this ancient Pelican charger for DualShock 3s, and Wii U stuff here. Like I was saying before, though, the HDMI switcher back here, it actually runs all the way to the first input on, it's actually the one that's blinking down here right now.
Yeah.
It runs to the first input on this 8-input monoprice switcher, which then runs to the first input on the Denon receiver. And a lot of people will have asked, like, does any of your switchers, the receiver, does any of that add lag? And I can confirm no, because I recently finally did some tests with Dan Kuntz's Time Sleuth. And even if you plug into the HDMI switcher that's on the far side of the room, daisy chain it to this switcher, daisy chain it to the Denon, and then to the TV, I've still got about 17 milliseconds of lag. So approximately 1 second of lag, which is, or 1 frame of lag, not 1 second, that would be pretty bad. 1 frame of lag on the LG OLED TV, which is what you get just plugging directly into it.
Yeah.
So 2 switchers, receiver, no lag. So that's very, very good. The one thing, if you are going through multiple switchers, I believe it increases the amount of time it takes to sync. It takes to display the image. But once it's on the screen, as long as you're not like trying to do that with like an OSSC or something that might like change resolution modes or something, it's fine. The OSSC does go direct to the Denon, which, I mean, speaking of which, the OSSC is over here, and if I'm playing an RGB system, I've just got set up to, I just flick it on, and it's detecting the Super Nintendo right now. It's actually displaying the wrong hertz. Every once in a while this happens with the OSSC where it seems like it locks on to the wrong refresh rate. It's just saying 60.24, which you'll sometimes hear audio pops if it does that. So sometimes I just turn it off and turn it back on, and now it's right, 60.08. So usually that's not a problem, but every once in a while it is. So over here I've got kind of the Xbox stuff. By the way, these are not as expensive as you would think, like to look at them, like these nice glass shelves. They're like about, you can find some more expensive ones, but these were around $20 maybe on Amazon. The brand on these is called FitUIs, like FITUIs, IEYES. And I really like them. Just they're monitor risers. But I really like, you have to be like careful to like make sure you're buying one big enough and tall enough for what you want to put underneath. But I've kind of made extensive use of them. So I've got all my Xbox stuff here. I've got the audio mixer here, which I use for streams. It's a USB mixer, and I really like it. I was kind of opposed to the idea of USB, a USB mixer for a long time. But
I still kind of am.
yeah, I know it's a hard barrier to get past, I guess. but it's kind of dusty in here. It's really hard to dust between the knobs.
Yeah, my little one's pretty dirty too.
Yeah, but I actually really like it. It's made things a lot easier. You know, if I need an extra mic for a stream, I just plug it in here. It's really easy to use. There's basically nothing I have to do on the computer. It automatically, there's never anything weird on the computer end with it. Like, you know, like, oh, it's not detecting it or anything like that. It's instant. It's immediately in OBS when I need it. Down here, I've got, actually got an extra Super NT with the Super Game Boy 2 always in it. Because I feel like that's probably the best way to play, in my opinion anyway.
At least unless he updates the firmware of the Super NT and has
7x scaling.
Yeah, and well, especially if it just makes it so that it detects if it's a Game Boy game.
Yes. Well, especially for games that have Super Game Boy enhancements, I feel like it's the right way to do it. Now I've actually got here, I've got several of these throughout here. I bought like a bunch of like, you know, Mary-Kate and Ashley or Pets or, you know, like garbage Game Boy games, you know, that are like worth $1. I bought like a bunch of those and soaked them in alcohol to get the labels off. And I just kind of use them as dust covers for like things I leave out, like Super Game Boy or the Game Boys that I've gotten down the hallway. You know, just so I don't have to have like a cartridge in there all the time, or so that dust isn't collecting in them. And I just took the PCBs out.
What did you do with the PCBs?
They're upstairs.
That was good.
Yeah, I just have them. Yeah,
like a bare board to show.
Yeah. I've got modem and router back there. Actually, here's another. I recently added this. This was one of the. This is a Blackbird 4K Pro switcher or whatever. That was initially one of my solutions for trying to get you know, 4K switching on my TV, but it was really flaky when I tried to pair it with a switcher, especially when using 4K content or the OSSC. But it works fine just as a regular switcher on its own. I don't have any 4K content running to it, but I've kind of got, it's not part of that daisy chain I was talking about before. Well, it's its own daisy chain because it goes from that to, I think, the second input on the Monoprice 8 input switcher and then to the Denon. But I've got this second Super NT as well as the GBA Consolizer, which I really hope to do an episode on relatively soonish. The GBA Consolizer is running into it, as well as this is the Raspberry Pi that I use as an interface for the 3DS capture. So those are running to that for now, and I've got, I think, one more spot on if I need to add something else.
I noticed your G-SCARTs underneath here as well.
Yeah. The G-SCARTs, there's two G-SCARTs. They aren't G-SCART lights, they're relatively older ones. Two of them daisy chained together. And then as well as out of the way, Sandy, a G-Comp switch, which we both actually just ordered the 8 input, 2 output G-Comps, which is honestly like maybe my most anticipated product of any kind right now. I actually, when I did some revamping on my setup about a year ago, I've got these cables right here. These are actually running all the way from under here, from where the G-Comp is, to the PVM on the right-hand side, the 20L5, which then jumps over to the M2 MD, which is, by the way, that's branded as Olympus, but it's the same tube as a Sony M2 model. But Olympus, I don't know how the business details worked out, but Olympus manufactured these, but the picture quality is identical, as far as I can tell, to a Sony M2, and they're manufactured 2 years more recently. So I really like it. But anyway, I've got that running over here, even though there's nothing connected to the output. So I've been anticipating this 2 output G-SCART for a really long time. And if I really need to have component on the PVMs right now, I can just swap it on the G comp.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to having that 2 output option. And right now, the G comp has GameCube, which the GameCube is using the GCHD Mark II right now with component output, because I do believe after they made some of their firmware fixes, I do consider it to have better video output, better quality than the official GameCube component cables. I've also got component running from the Wii, as well as the Xbox, of course, and the PSP Go, which is, kind of my preferred way to play PSP, as long as I've got digital. I've got digital duplicates of most of my physical PSP games, because you can sync a DualShock 3 controller to the PSP Go and really use it as a true micro console. It's definitely the most comfortable and best looking way to play a PSP game on a TV, or to capture it, I think. Better than the PlayStation TV, which I've actually, I was kind of proud of it. I did this recently, how I have the PlayStation TV set here. I've got the power and the HDMI kind of running out the sides, and I've got some command stickies.
Mm-hmm. I use those a lot too.
Under here to sort of, because it's a very lightweight, floppy device.
It's hard to get the card door open.
Yeah, so that's why I have it located where it is, and those are holding it firm, and I put the card door sort of hanging over the empty space here, so I can just pop that open very easily without it flopping about. And I've kind of left space here with the intent of, this is where a consoleized RGB controller port Game Gear would go. In that space. So this is kind of like the consoleized portable, except with the exception of the GBA and the Pi for the 3DS interface.
Which could change in the future, anyways. I mean,
yeah, it could change if new options come around for DS and 3DS. Which, by the way, the reason they are over here is because I need to share the same analog audio cable with them, because it would just be too much to run 2 audio cables, especially when it's not like I'm going to be capturing 3DS on a daily basis. So I need to use the analog audio for the 3DS because the digital audio output on it is garbage. Mm-hmm. And on the consoleizer, it has a digital audio option, but it has compatibility issues. Which does happen to be the case with the DIN receiver. It doesn't work on that. So I'm using analog audio. I'm actually really pleased with how it sounds. And Woozle, the creator of the GBA consoleizer, kind of recommended to me anyway that the analog is kind of more true in a sense. He said that there's maybe a small handful of games that have like kind of audio pops on the digital even when it is working. So it's I guess more authentic in a sense. I mean, with GBA you've kind of got limited audio expectations anyway. But it actually sounds really good for what it is. So I can swap those here. So that stuff is over there. And then of course over here I've got the Nintendo stuff on the bottom in chronological order, of course. PlayStation stuff on the top. When I get that 2 output G comp with the 8 inputs, I might switch. I'll probably swap this PS2 out for I forget what the model number is, but the 30-something thousand, the really good one.
Yeah.
This one is my original PS2, and the disk drive doesn't work very well, so I kind of use it for like free McBoot type stuff. But I'm not a big fan of free McBoot, honestly, so I'd rather just have my best PS2 FAT out here, put component output on it for the G-Comp, and then the Slim on the bottom. Both of them are RGB right now, but then that way I can capture component or RGB for PS2 games without any issue. And then this is my original PS1, and then the small one down here, the PSONE, is a Japanese system. I don't have like a proper way for like region swapping on a PS1. I just never bothered to set that up. I just like having a separate system for it anyway.
So is the top one? That's not your PSIO system.
It is not. I've got this one actually doesn't even have a parallel port because I got it pretty late. But I've got a RCA jack unit. That's the PSIO one. It's upstairs. You know, I use it when I need it.
Yeah.
But I prefer, like, for my main setup, I like to use discs when possible.
So what are these things on the wall here?
Those are sort of sound absorption panels. Sort of a collaborative effort between me and my parents, but with my dad being far better at woodworking and my mom being far better at dealing with fabric. Yeah, they're wood frames. It was not that expensive to buy all the materials for them. They're wood frames with, it's been years since we made them, so I forget the exact material that's in it, but it's kind of two materials. One in the back is meant to absorb lower frequencies, and then the more softer, fluffier stuff in the front is more meant to absorb higher frequencies. And then the burlap kind of just lets the sound pass freely through it. I just kind of like the raggedy, old-fashioned-y look of burlap, so that's why I chose that as opposed to another material. And they're all, just kind of different colors of burlap. But this room was very echoey. I've also got, like, way down there where my dining room table is. There's more in there because that room would trap a ton of sound whenever I was talking. I could hear myself echoing back from that room really bad. So it improved the acoustics in here for streaming and shooting and, anything like that I needed to do. So that's what they're for. And, I just put plushies and stuff on top for fun, I guess.
So what systems do you have in here?
So over here, sort of at my workstation is, I guess you could say, the companies that aren't in the game anymore. The companies that don't make consoles anymore. Mostly just because I was able to divide them up in a way that worked. I like dividing things by manufacturer and putting them in chronological order. So it was kind of tough to figure out exactly the shelf spacing. But I've got Master System, Genesis with the Sega CD, a Model 2 Mega Drive. I want to get, this is the only one that's not hooked up right now. This is, I got relatively recently. It's in really nice condition. And I want to get a triple bypass in it. And I could even see myself using it as my main system at some point, depending on how I like that mod. And then Saturn and Dreamcast. I've actually got the GDMU Dreamcast down here right now. But in theory, my main one that plays disc games is the one that I intend to have there. I was just using the GDMU a while back, is all. And then down here is the PC Engine with the interface unit with the RGB mod. And so everything that needs RGB is within reach of the G-SCARTs in that source central area down there. So all of this is RGB except for the Dreamcast, which is VGA. And so it can reach there, and the Nintendo stuff and the PlayStation stuff that needs RGB can reach over. But yeah, the one sort of downfall of how I've got things laid out here, but I couldn't come up with any better methods really with the shelving I had to work with. The Genesis is like so high up here that there's not enough room to put a Power Base Mini in there, so I can't play Master System games on this Genesis. But if I get a triple bypass on this one and hook it up, that would probably be the best way to play Master System games in analog anyway.
Yeah, you can put 32X on it probably too.
Yeah, it would probably fit. I just kind of like having them together. I just think it looks nice. But I had to have, like, I couldn't move this shelf any further down because there wouldn't be enough room to deal with the lid for the PC Engine.
Let's take a look at the wiring, how you have it all hooked up and back, because it's very clean, I thought.
Well, it's clean now. I mean, relatively. It was clean when I first sort of revamped my setup sometime last year, but then it sort of fell out into disarray and is a little better now. This is a RAID, an external RAID that we store a lot of our project materials on. That analog cable that I was talking about for the 3DS capture and the GBA consolizer actually runs all the way to here. And this goes into a ground loop isolator that a lot of people recommend on the 3DS episode that I should get one. Is really cheap, like $8. And that goes into this external sound card, which I've had this thing for years and I love it. Mostly because it's got like RCA outputs, which you don't normally see on sound cards. And that runs into here. And then I actually have from my internal sound card, I have the input from that, from this card, which is connected to the GBA consolizer and the 3DS, I have the output run from a fiber optic all the way to the den receiver. And that way I can hear GBA and 3DS audio from my main seating position through my main speakers. And it actually sounds really good because that ground loop isolator really cleaned up the noise.
So that sound card, does that have optical in?
It does not have optical in.
It's optical out.
It just has optical out, but it's a great sound card. I got it at Circuit City, so you know I've had it for a while. They probably make a similar model. It's a Creative Sound Blaster, but it's a great little. It's just really convenient because I can hook stuff up without having to deal with getting directly behind my computer. But I intentionally made this space over here, like where this entertainment unit / desk is over here. I intentionally, I kind of had to accept that my life is such that I'm constantly going to just have to be messing with things. It's never going to just be a permanent setup. So that's why I have over here enough space to walk behind. So I can work back here when I need to. Yeah. But obviously, it's much more difficult to work with anything behind the OLED TV, and it's, as you can see back there, it is less clean.
Yeah, well, it still looks a lot cleaner than mine, believe me.
One of my favorite tricks that I've done for years and years, I've got a cloth. Affixed to the back of that IKEA unit, which prevents you from seeing the mess of wires behind the Nintendo systems. Because otherwise it would look really ugly. Yeah, so that just kind of makes a neutral a black void, and the cloth allows me to tuck the cables under it without, So yeah, I mean, that really finishes the look, I think. And then over here at the PVMs, I've actually got a little mini amplifier right here with some speakers. So that, when I'm sitting here, instead of the audio coming from like way over on the other side of the room, it's like at me where I'm, playing. These speakers, I used to have a surround sound setup. I got these speakers, I believe in 2010, these Polk Monitor series speakers, I think they are. And these were like my front, left and right front speakers. And then the tall speakers that are by the TV, by the OLED TV anyway, these were the surround left and right. Speakers, and I've got the old center channel speaker. It's not in use. It's just in a closet upstairs. But I mean, I'm not that big of an audiophile. I mean, I like surround sound, and if I had more space, I would absolutely incorporate surround sound again, but it just was not a priority compared to the monitors, I guess. And I just needed space for more monitors, more systems. And, you know, frankly, you know, modern gaming with good surround sound implementation is a smaller and smaller percentage of what I do anymore anyway. So it just seemed like surround sound was not that big of a priority, and I'm totally happy with the dual channel. So that was a good way to use my speakers again. It looks kind of silly having these floor standing speakers, but they also kind of frame up the TV really nicely. So it's kind of over the top, but I like it. I mean, I got a really good deal on these speakers back in 2010, so I've gotten great use out of them. I did add a subwoofer over here. It's kind of an odd shaped subwoofer. It can go vertical or like be a low line one on the floor.
Who's on top of it? Who's that?
That is the Dark Lord Backlog, the Dark Lord of the Backlog, who I've got probably 100 or 200 more of those upstairs in the closet because, you know, as many...
Everyone wants to buy one.
Yeah, as many people may know, I'm one of the founding members of the backloggery.com website. And back before I moved into this house, we did a fundraiser where we raised enough money to make 500 mass-produced backlog plushies. And they go bark, 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 like the Ganon laugh in Zelda 2 when you squeeze them. Yeah, we raised enough money on a marathon, and I remember I was still living in my apartment at the time. This was, I guess, it was probably late 2011 when we raised the money. And then I was preparing to move into this house in 2012. So I was like, oh, thank goodness I'm going to be moving into a bigger space because I didn't know where I was going to put 500 plushies in my apartment. But yeah, so, and over here, this is a nice little cheap, little remote control caddy that I have, you know, pins in, and TV remote, Denon remote, and then this is the keyboard that is synced to my PS4 for Final Fantasy 14. I mean, that covers it pretty thoroughly on that end. I mean, you know, there is room for maybe a PlayStation 5 in theory under here when that is properly announced. Right now there's my expanded storage for the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation VR box. And there's some these are I guess little toolboxes I've got like memory cards and stuff in. But yeah, I think that covers like this end of the room pretty thoroughly. So on the receiver, I can switch it with the remote to go zone 1 or zone 2. So zone 2 goes to the capture system over in my computer. So I can display something different on the TV, or what's going to the capture card can be two things if I want. Usually it's not. But like I've got the Super Nintendo running right now, so I can just set the OSSC input on the receiver to go to both the television and the capture card, and I can be sitting here to capture. I would just, for retro stuff, I'm mostly using OBS because I found that I kind of like how it preserves the pixels a little bit better, as well as I've got two capture cards on my computer. One is an AverMedia Live Gamer 4K Pro, which I'm using mostly for HDMI systems, and then the Magewell, which is way too expensive, and we're not going to talk about that. But it's a very good card, and it treats retro content very nicely. I am not sure why it's not centered right now, but I'm going to reset transform. That is weird. Why is it? Oh, I know why. Because transform center to screen. It's not exactly as it should be. I don't know what went on with the layout here, but I'll fix that another time. But yeah, I mean, the nice thing is I can be sitting here playing and monitoring what I'm doing with capturing, or I can be working over here. Whoa! Sandy always gets curious when this falls off of my arm, my chair arm. She's always like, "What is that?" Or I can capture working over here as well. So, and then, you know, in Adobe Premiere, I can just bring up my files here and, you know, just drag them in and, you know, edit from here, make my first pass cut in the right-hand monitor and drag it onto my timeline and work from there. So, I mean, I guess that kind of pretty well covers what's going on in my work/play situation here right now. And so yeah, it's not always this cleanly organized, but you know, I try my best, and I'm really happy with where it is right now, and I'd like to keep it this way for a while, but you know how we are. There's always
It's always in flux.
yeah, it's always in flux. There's always new hardware that we're going to have to test out for the show and stuff. And but I think it's in a pretty good place, and you know, I like what I can do with it. I'd say it's the best overall that I've had it right now. So hope you enjoyed, and thanks to Coury for shooting, and thank you for watching and supporting us.